Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Nuland, good to see you again. I wanted to talk about the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces treaties. Russia's been violating the INF treaty for quite some time. It was finally made official in public in 2014. But in response to questioning on the matter, the administration said they're exploring their, quote, economic countermeasures in response to the violation. You know, in the president's speech back in April of 2009 in Prague, he committed to ridding the world of nuclear weapons. He said that in order for non-proliferation regime to work, he said, violations must be punished, and then he said, words must mean something. President Obama, words must mean something. This administration has now said for years that they're considering economic sanctions against Russia for its violation of the INF treaty. Is Russia still in violation of that treaty? And when is the administration finally going to get around to punishing this violation of the treaty?
Thank you, Senator Barrasso, Dr. Barrasso, as I like to call you. As you have said, we have found Russia in violation over the last 2 years. We are engaged in discussions, negotiations with Russia to try to bring them back into compliance. We are also working with allies to bring pressure to bear on Russia with regard to the violations. We're also working intensively, and this is part of our package for the Warsaw Summit, to ensure that NATO's own deterrent, including its nuclear deterrent, is updated and strong. We are, and this is about all I can say at this point in an open hearing, we are reviewing and working on a full range of options, to make sure that Russia cannot gain any significant military advantage from any system that they might develop outside of the treaty. And we are also investing in U.S. technologies that are designed to deter and defeat any Russian provocations. But I think going further than that, we'd have to be in another setting.
Yeah, but just in terms of, in that line of thought with what we could do, you know, the Open Skies Treaty, according to the State Department reports on arms control compliance, Russia's failing to meet its obligations on the Open Skies Treaty. It's restricting access to some of its territories. It's shown a repeated pattern of violating its arms control obligations, including, as we just talked about, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces. So it's now asking that the Open Skies Consultative Commission for permission to use more powerful collection capabilities on flights over the United States. You know, to me it says that the U.S. shouldn't be approving such a request for these upcoming, there's requested sensors. At least make it contingent upon Russia first coming into full compliance with the Open Skies Treaty and the INF Treaty. And I'd just be interested in your thoughts on that.
Well, you're not wrong that Russia has been restricting some overflights. There is a list of places, Kaliningrad, low altitude over Moscow, et cetera, where they've been restricting open skies flights. They had been restricting open skies flights over Chechnya in the last couple of weeks. They have reopened that territory in part due to the pressure we've been able to bring to bear from other open skies treaty partners, particularly the Europeans who highly value this. I think you know that the first round of Russian requests for higher definition cameras were within the constraints of the treaty. And so from that perspective, were we to unilaterally restrict those flights, we could just expect they would do the same to us, and that would make us less capable ourselves. With regard to their more recent requests for really potent visuals, we are still reviewing that internally. I don't know if Dr. Carpenter has anything to add on that. We can certainly brief you in a closed setting on that as well.
Okay. Doctor?
Well, I would just add that to answer your question, Senator, that yes, Russia is in violation of its INF treaty requirements not to produce, deploy, or flight test a ground-launched cruise missile with a range between 500 and 5,500 kilometers. We are looking at a range of, we're looking at this more broadly in the context of Russia's aggressive behavior. And so we're taking a number of steps that are being taken in that broader context to include expanding and modifying air defense systems together with our allies. We're also looking at investments together with our allies and partners in advanced capabilities that will allow us to defend against complex cruise missile threats. On the open skies issue, I would just associate myself with everything that Assistant Secretary Nuland has said. The treaty process already provides a way forward for certification of the electro-optical camera that is now being in use as wet films go out of business, essentially. And so our ability to use this same sensor down the road is impacted by the decisions that we take today.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the follow-up. In terms of security risks, and Secretary Nuland, you had said you wanted to take additional security risks for our country on this. Are there additional security risks and vulnerabilities if, in fact, these new types of sensors are allowed, on open skies aircrafts for us?
Senator, I'm comfortable with the decisions that we've already made. We're reviewing exactly this set of issues as we look at the next set of requests from Russia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.